of Guru Talks podcast. The world meets here in Bali. So we are at Guru Canggu, and we have with us an amazing person, a beautiful girl called Taina Angel Izquierdo. She's a 19 years old professional surfer, born and raised here in Bali. So Taina.
Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm really good. How are you guys?
We are amazing. We are so
Cool.
thrilled for
We are
you.
happy you
Yeah.
are here.
So happy to be here too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for accepting the challenge. So this podcast today is all about you. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start for your, growing up here. You grow up in Uluwatu, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how it was to grow up in a beautiful place that is very known for surf, right?
Growing up, it was so beautiful. Such a nice environment growing up close to the beach. And my dad has a huge love for surfing and the ocean. So I'm always in the ocean, playing with seaweed and the sand and the ibus at the beach. It's just so special. And back then it was so quiet, and we'd be able to skate on the road, no problem, not a worry in the world. When it rains, we'd dance on the road at night. It was so magical, and yeah.
Oh, beautiful. So, Francisco, hi. How are you today?
I'm fine, and you? Oh,
I'm very
you
good.
just pop by. It's amazing.
Yeah, just like
You find
this.
amazing people in this podcast, you see, just from out of the blue. Yeah, so I have a question for you. I think it's important to understand a person, understand the background. You know what I mean? Not being boring about this, but just give us a little bit of insight about the way you relate with your father and mother, and how this was important to decide your surf career and your goals in life. You think they had a word on that?
Yeah, my dad
Influence?
definitely has a huge impact. Like I said, he has a huge love for the ocean and surfing, and watching him surf and watching him become so stoked over a sport kind of opened my eyes, and it did the same for me too, which is incredible. And it all started out for fun. We were just tandeming at the beach, and then I just wanted to do it by myself, and I understand now why he loves it so much. It's so much more than a sport, and yeah, it makes me so happy.
Why it's more than a sport, in
It's
your perspective?
because you're so close with nature, and the ocean changes all the time. It's never the same, and
Never boring.
it's never boring. Exactly. And yeah, it's an escape from the real world,
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, and if something bad happened at school or I wanted to get away, I'd literally just paddle out on my surfboard, sometimes not even catch a wave, but just sit out in the ocean all day and pretend that I was a mermaid, or just being out
so
there.
cool.
It made me so happy. It's like
Yeah.
a whole different world.
Yeah.
How old were you when you first started catching your first waves?
My dad pushed me when I was pretty young, like 6, and then
Wow.
I started catching my own waves maybe when I was 8. But like I said, I started out tandeming with my dad, so would both be on a surfboard together, and then sometimes he'd carry me up, or just made it super fun for me.
And because you started out of fun, you liked the ocean, you paddled to the ocean. Sometimes you also use it as an escape, like we all do. We all
Yeah.
have our own things to escape sometimes for the reality, right? So when was the moment that you thought, okay, I'm gonna do this in a more professional way?
When my dad introduced me to Coco Ho, I don't know if you heard about
No.
her. She's a professional surfer, and
Okay.
when I started, I didn't even know it was a big sport, especially for women. Because when I entered my first surf competition, I was against the boys. And I was me and this other girl, Natasha, we were the only girls. So I thought it was more of a boys thing. And then I guess my dad saw that I was super into it, and we had the internet, so I started looking up WSL. Back then it was ASB, and Coco Ho popped up, and Yeah, she's the reason why I wanted to become a professional
She
surfer.
was an inspiration for you.
Yeah,
Wow.
big inspiration. I saw the lifestyle, watched her YouTube videos, and I said to myself, that's what I want to do.
Wasn't it scary at all going to the ocean? And because there's of course there's risks, right? You are in the outdoor environment. This is pure nature. Big waves sometimes. Didn't you ever felt like a little bit scared, or you were so brave that you even didn't thought about it?
Back then I wasn't really scared because my dad wouldn't make me go out if he was never like forcing
He never
me
pushed
to do.
you.
He just told me, if you want to surf, we go surf. If you don't, you can hang out at the beach. It was never like, it was so natural for me. And then growing up, that's then I started seeing, you know, people surfing bigger waves, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that too.
So you felt that you were natural on I mean, the sport itself, it was a natural thing on you? I mean,
Yeah.
some people, they try, they are not so good.
No.
But you felt it was a natural kind of skill you had.
I think so. Yeah.
It was in your DNA?
It just felt so natural for me.
Natural, yeah. Do you think that, you were saying that you escape, don't you go in the water, don't you feel the water is the reality and outside is not really the reality, because it's just pure nature? There is no hang-ups, yeah.
No, that's. I think that's why it is an escape for me.
It's more real, yeah? It's
Yeah.
more connected with reality.
Yeah, for
You feel
sure.
at peace. You know that the story about why people are very positive in the water?
Why?
Because the water has negative ions. It's science, huh? And this produces positive energy in the body.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and that's why the surfers are really cool and relaxed. That's what they
Sometimes.
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 Oh, so tell me about
Yeah,
that other
that's
part.
that actually brings us to the next question, because you are young, you are beautiful, you are a woman, and you grow up here in Indonesia. So when you started to go into the water, and this is a male-dominated kind of sport, right? As you said before, did you ever felt like, you know, boys are not taking you seriously,
Yeah.
or you ever felt that you need to prove more because you were a girl? Did you find this type of prejudice in the water?
I definitely felt that growing up, and you definitely have to earn your respect. And now I don't really have a problem with that. The boys do respect me, but growing up, sometimes I would beat the boys, you know, the competitions, and they'd get a little jealous, but they've always respected me. But sometimes
How is
they
the
would
reaction
throw
of
little
a jealous guy if you are doing better than them? If they are not showing up very clearly, what kind of attitude do you feel? Like the looks?
You're pretty good just for a girl. Or like something like that.
Oh my
Little
God.
comments like that.
Ah, that's...
And so actually, but maybe that's one of the things, and I also talk for myself, because being a woman sometimes, and we are entering these kind of male-dominated places, work environment, sports, you get this kind, sometimes they don't even talk, it's just like a nice thing.
You
yeah?
feel the vibe.
You feel the
You
vibe.
feel the vibe.
And that's sometimes what even makes her like being better, because we feel, now I'm going to prove you
Exactly.
wrong.
That's what pushed me a lot too.
How did you manage to ignore all this prejudice? What was your...
Because at the end of the day, I love surfing, so I wasn't gonna let that stop me. Surfing was way more important to me than little comments like that.
Yeah, of course.
So at the end of the day, it comes back to my love for the sport and the ocean, and yeah.
It doesn't boost you up as well? Like, more they try to criticize, more you feel the energy to prove that you are better, or it's not your thing?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you are good.
For
I'm going to show
sure.
you.
But growing up, my dad always taught me, let the surfing do the talking. So I wouldn't say much, but I definitely show them.
Yeah.
And it came to a point that you had rip curl
Oh yeah.
coming to you. So tell us a little bit about that experience, and how did you felt, and what was the moment when Rip Curl approached you and said, we want that girl?
How old were you?
I was 14 years old when they sponsored me. I was the happiest girl in the world.
You could not believe, you're like, wow.
Yeah, Rip Curl was like my dream sponsor, so I was super stoked. And the fact that they wanted me, I was like, wow, they see something in me. Growing up, I've like I don't know, I've never really thought of myself as like someone that could go far. So it was just super cool knowing that other people see the potential in me, and that made me believe in myself more. And it was so nice. So when I got sponsored by Rip Curl, that was when I was actually like, oh, I can do this. Like, it gave me so much, boost.
Yeah.
And what had happened after the Rip Curl sponsor? You start traveling. What happened after?
I started winning more comps. I got to travel and see the world, and I had a different kind of support. Like the support I had before Rip Curl was my dad and a few friends, but it's just a whole different kind of support, and I'm so grateful for them.
How did your father relate with that amazing sponsor, choosing you? He was happy,
He
proud.
was so chill about it, honestly.
It was cool.
He just told me, he knew the day was coming, so he was really surprised, but I was so happy. I think I cried.
So where did you went for the first competitions? What places you traveled
where?
around the world?
Yeah.
I went to Taiwan.
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 They have surf there.
They have
they
really good
have.
surf
I know now.
over there.
Yeah. It's true.
I
I heard
think-
about it.
I think that was my first competition abroad, and it was so fun. The waves were huge, and I was the youngest, but it was just so fun. And
You did a good classification.
I got third in the women's, and that was so good for me. And I started going to Australia. I got second in a few comps
Where you went
over
in
there.
Australia, Point Danger, Coolangatta?
I went there. I went to West Oz. I went to Gold Coast. I went everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, Bells.
Surfers Paradise, they have also competition there,
I
heard, no?
didn't go to that one.
Yeah.
No.
And during these competitions, did you ever felt, because you starting 14, right? And then you are catching these waves and being on the second or the third. Did you ever felt like there was some jealousy, or you feel always support among your colleagues? How did it happen?
I've always felt support.
Yes, because they are competing as well. They are
Yeah.
in the same.
Definitely, but I noticed that with some of the girls I competed with, there was a little bit of jealousy going on, which is normal.
Between the girls competing,
But at the end of the day, we're friends and we support each other.
of course.
But if it's a competition, it's a competition.
It's tough, yeah.
What was the one competition that you were super exciting to participate in? Where?
Definitely the last one, El Salvador, for Olympic trials. I was super excited for that one.
So you did Taiwan, Australia,
Japan.
Japan.
I went to New Zealand for the Grom Search finals.
Okay.
And
And San
where else
Salvador.
did I go to?
San Salvador, is it?
Yeah, I went
Costa
to
Rica?
a few-
No?
Mm-mm.
They have-
I went to Maldives.
Wow.
The Maldives they have
India.
surf, but
Oh my
it's
God.
outside.
The
It's
things
like,
that we know.
In,
It's offshore. It's offshore. Yeah. It's like not.
in one of the islands.
You ever been in the Pacific? You dream about going there?
Yeah,
I heard the waves there are amazing.
I went to Hawaii and I got stuck there during Corona times for 9 months. I was alone in Hawaii.
But you could surf, or they closed the beaches there?
Can
Yes,
surf.
You could.
Yeah.
So you had fun. So yeah.
So much fun. It was a good experience.
Is it true that it's very crowded in Hawaii?
Oh yeah.
And they are the locals, they really like, this is my spot?
Yeah, but
it true?
I think that's everywhere.
Yeah?
But since my dad grew up there, I had so many people looking out for me. And
Because they know him.
Yeah, and they kind of took me under their wing, which is really cool. Because not many new faces can catch waves over there. And I had so much fun, like catching waves with the uncles.
Yeah. And you have been where, in Maui? Or in Honolulu?
I went to Oahu and Kauai.
Okay, great. The big wave is in Maui, yeah? I heard, no?
They're all
The jaw.
big.
The jaw is the big one, yeah?
Yeah,
That's in Maui, yeah?
yeah, I think so.
You never been there?
No.
That's a tough one, yeah? That's like huge. These kind of waves you don't do. Yeah?
Not yet, but
But you pretend.
The
You want to do it, yeah?
the future, you never know.
Yeah.
Could be.
What was the biggest wave that you catch?
Biggest wave? Maybe outside corner, Uluwatu.
How big it was? Do you have an idea?
Maybe 8 foot.
Wow.
I think that's the biggest for me.
And tubing is good?
not gonna lie, I'm still working on that part.
Ah, yeah, it's good.
And one question that I have for you, because you obviously you have a very light spirit. You are a fun girl. It's easy to see you as a friend, right? But in the competition, sometimes you need to perform for results, and this can cause a little bit of stress, I can imagine. So, also because you are young, and sometimes we have the idea that younger people don't feel stressed, but they do, and they do feel a lot in a different scale. So my question to you is, how did you deal with the stress of performing your results? What did you have to, your inner strength? What did you call in order to get the steam out?
Well, when I was younger, competing was so stressful for me because, like you said, I'm light-spirited and I'm so bubbly and I love talking to people. But so it was hard for me to balance that out with competing, because sometimes in the water I was too nice, and that was kind of my struggles. But I balance that out now. I understand that when the buzzer goes on, it's showtime, and after that we're friends again. But yeah, Rip Curl would send me to all these different places, and sometimes I did not perform well, or I would lose first round, and that really, I had a lot of pressure, and I gotta admit I didn't handle it in a healthy way.
Okay.
I used food to cope with a lot of things, and that kind of led to binge eating, especially with the pressure of looking a certain way with the sport, But now what I've learned is that I do have what it takes, and I am capable, and I just started talking to myself a lot nicer, and I'm more understanding, and I understand that you gotta lose to achieve a lot. You don't start winning right away. You just, there's gonna be a lot of trials and errors, and I know that my Rip Curl sponsored me for a reason. They see it in me, and I started seeing it in myself. So now when I lose a comp, I use it to fire me up for the next one, and I use that as motivation.
You accept, and then you work on it.
Yeah.
So, just to make a loop of what we were talking here, we do this because it's beautiful to see. There is a parkour, yeah? So you start very young, going to the water with your father, getting trust, then you start to see you can surf, and you gain love for the surfing practice, and then you go on, and then you start to compete, and you have a sponsor at 14 years old. When this food kind of problem come up in your life, how old were you?
Well, I was 11 years old. It was pretty young, but
even before the competition.
Yeah, but it went from one time a week to, and it kept on growing, and then when I started competing, it went even more, especially getting sponsored too.
The pressure, right?
The
pressure was big, yeah.
But my dad struggled with alcohol addiction, and as an 11-year-old girl, it was really tough for me because, he is a single parent, and I felt so alone, and the only thing that made me feel better was food. And I would just sit alone in my room. Well, I don't know what my dad was doing, eating, and it made me feel so much better.
That was the way that was an escape.
Yeah, and then when I was 14, started getting comments about my body and, looking a certain way, the usual society.
Do you feel like, because that's an interesting thing, we have these struggles, and sometimes it can come in a very young age, right? And because we are young, we don't know how to deal with it. Even when we are older, we do a lot of mistakes, right? But at this certain point, when you start compensating that with food, I see that you managed to jump this to a positive way on your own. Meaning, your father unfortunately had to struggle with his own problems, and you had to solve your own alone. What did you did in those moments when you feel, okay, food is not the solution? What did you thought in your mind? What did you do and think in order to you know, go to a better place?
Honestly, if I'm being truthful, I didn't. I only discovered this recently, and I wasn't alone. My dad inspired me a lot. He is now 2 years sober. And
Wow, that's great.
Congratulations.
yeah, I'm so proud of him.
Mr. Izquierdo, yeah?
Yeah. And when I saw that, you know, he can go past the alcohol addiction and become sober, it really inspired me. If he can do that, then
Okay.
I can have a healthy relationship with food. So I wasn't really alone, you know?
So in the beginning, you were not even aware that you had a food problem.
I wasn't aware till I was 14, 15.
So it took you 3 years just eating and doing your stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hide it from him for sure.
I hid it from a lot of people. I did not talk about my struggles with anyone because when I did, people would say, "Oh, you should just smile," like, you know, like they tell me to put a mask on in a way
Put
because
the dust under the carpet. Yeah.
I already had the image of fun, happy, bubbly person. When they saw me sad, they're like, "What?" They freak out. They're like, "What's wrong with her now?"
Yeah.
But now I realize that speaking about my struggles
Yes.
really like helped me so much, and I know it helps other people too, but it helps me more than I help them.
Yeah, but that's the question I would like to
Yeah,
ask.
yeah, yeah.
So, I help people to recover from drug addiction, and I understand it's and if you love the person, it's so strong, the feeling, yeah. And you love your father, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
the
my
same.
hero.
He's your hero. So the amount of suffering that goes inside is huge. So going to the food, I could totally cope with that. You needed to do something. But don't you think now that you have this life story, even you are still very young, because you are, don't you believe that you should speak out this and inspire other girls that they have prejudice, they're afraid to be stigmatized, speak about their own issues? Don't you think this is the moment to make it open and allow girls to, you know, speak up? Because it's not only the food thing. I feel in general, but you can help me on that. I don't know this generation, the generation of girls my age. I'm only at 19 as well. But they feel the pressure of being a girl because they need to be beautiful all the time. That's another pressure, yeah? That we guys, we don't have so much, yeah? So being a girl, you need to be happy all the time, and then you have all this thing. And if you don't speak out and you don't express yourself, the pain and the struggle, it becomes even bigger. So how you think you can help other and inspire other girls with your story?
To encourage them that it's okay to talk about it, and you'll feel so much better talking about it. And honestly, it's normal to have acne, and especially you're growing up, it's normal for your body to change. Your
Yes.
body's not supposed to look a certain way for your whole life. Like you said to me the other day, it's normal. And it makes you human. And these emotions that you have, it makes you human, you know? If you didn't feel those things, then are you human? Like, are you even real? So yeah, it's okay. It's completely normal. And I think the most important thing is to know that we have a choice to turn our life around, and you have the power to do anything you want if you really want it. Like, when I looked at my dad, I didn't think he could do, you know, he could stop it. He got to that point, but he made a choice, and yeah, he did.
You are very proud of him, yeah?
So proud.
And
Are you
I think
kidding?
you also be very proud of yourself.
Yeah, you are both winners, you and your
Both
dad,
fingers, yeah. You have it in your blood.
Oh.
So, talking about that, I got a little bit emotional while listening to her. I think everybody will be a little
Everybody is feeling that.
So, when we were talking, because we talked a little bit before this interview, and you told me about something that happened during the Olympics trial. First, you have to tell us one thing that made them very proud on the Olympics.
Oh no, I was told to be humble. I don't
No, but
Oh.
no. But we want to hear. And tell us after, because something also not so good happened. And what came out of all of this?
Okay.
Okay?
So yeah, I went to El Salvador to try qualify for the Olympics, and it was good. I did pretty well, I'd say. I beat Stephanie Gilmore, which is literally like, I don't know. I still am like, what? But I got injured. I tore my ACL, so I had to compete with an injury, which is tough.
Where?
Uh-huh.
Where was the injury?
My knee,
Oh,
my
man.
ACL.
That's not good.
And yeah,
And?
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
But in the past, when I have had an injury, it really took a toll on my mental health because I didn't have the ocean. I couldn't go surf,
Yeah.
and it would really bring me down, and I didn't know how to cope, so I would literally spiral. But this year really changed me, everything that has happened, and now I realize that I'm going to use this injury as a new opportunity to find what else I like besides surfing.
So you have a situation in this precise moment with your knee still.
Yeah.
What the physiotherapist said to you regarding recovering?
I have a month or two to go with rehab, and I think I'll be good. And every day I struggle with not having surfing, and it really triggers, the eating part because
Okay, normal.
yeah, it's normal. But like I said, everything is a choice, and I always choose. I choose to be happy, and I choose to get better, and I choose to be positive.
But you also told me that during this process, you started because you needed to find something in order to compensate because you couldn't go to the water. The food should be a no. So you find your voice, and you did something on social media.
Oh yeah,
Tell us a little bit about it.
I started, talking about my struggles on social media, and a lot of people related to me, and
A lot? How many?
lots of people
Thousands?
related to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I get messages from girls all over the world, and Indonesia mostly, saying that they struggle with the same thing too, and that my story really helped them and inspired them. And honestly, that's what has kept me going in this injury. Just
Wow.
knowing that I touched someone, and now that they are talking about it too, and they feel better because they're talking about it. And it's just so cool to me how talking about it brought so many people together, and now we're all helping each other and supporting each other. And it's just so cool because, yeah, everything happens for a reason, and I want to use this injury to talk about it more and hopefully inspire more.
You don't
people.
feel alone when you have other girls relating with your problem the same way. Like you have this kind of thing that I'm alone in this story, but in the end, there are many girls, fighting with the same
Yeah.
food issues.
You're definitely not alone. I thought I was alone, and every time I talked about it growing up, people were like, well, if you're not hungry, just stop eating, or
That's
comments
easy.
like that, but it's so much more than that. And yeah, you're definitely not alone. And
So you think that because social media can be very vicious sometimes, right? People can say bad comments. You are always wanted to perform in a way that you are always happy, you always look good, everything is perfect, butterflies, waves, nature, beautiful faces. So sometimes it's a pressure also to perform and portray a beautiful life that sometimes is not perfect. So do you think that you can help and inspire girls on social
Definitely.
media?
That's one of my goals, because social media is fake, honestly. It really is. Sometimes I cry the whole day, and I would post a photo of 1 second of my day, and you guys think I'm the happiest person
And
in
you
the
are
world.
not.
but I'm not, and that is okay, and that's normal. But I definitely want to be more real on there and tell people that it's okay to not be okay sometimes.
You know how we call this podcast?
What?
The Zinstagram. We want to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And-
because this is what make people real.
Yeah, and that is so beautiful. The bad things that you go through and the good things, that's life, that's real life, and that is so beautiful. I mean, if you're always smiling all the time, you're not really human, you're an alien.
Honest, yeah.
Yeah,
You are a robot.
exactly. And yeah, it's so normal and it's so real, and being real is so beautiful.
So I would like to ask you, if you have all this parkour, which is already 19 years, you did a lot of stuff already, much more than people I know my age, and you achieved so beautiful achievements. Yeah, like you conquered the problem with food. You are with your father, you know, and he's winning this situation with alcohol addiction and being alone with him, you know. Yeah, and you are building up this beautiful relationship with surf. How you see yourself in the future? You know what I mean? Like the injuries, maybe. Like,
Of course.
It's everything is temporary. So this injury is gonna be healed, and I'll be better, stronger mentally and physically. And honestly, I'm still battling this whole food thing every day.
You still do it.
I don't think it would ever go away, but it's just the choices that I make and how I choose to be positive and keep going. That's the one thing, never give up. So in the future, I don't know much, but all I know is that I'm gonna be okay, because out of everything I've been through, at the end I'm always okay, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
As long as I never give up. So that's what I'm gonna do.
So you are going to be happy or pursue happiness, yeah. But are you going to surf it like you are craving for going for surf? I'm sure, yeah.
Definitely.
Like being inside the water and rowing and all that. That
Definitely.
you miss that. So there is a plan already? No, you are just recovering. There's a place where you are planning to go once you get back on your feet again. Surfing again.
I always make plans, but you know what? Everything is so unpredictable nowadays. So
It's difficult with COVID and all that.
when it comes, I'll make the decision
So
to
you
go
prefer
somewhere.
to live the moment.
Yeah.
The last question I would like to do, and then Anna asked for sure a question to you. Do you think that when you are in the water, and I tell this story because I was living in India many years ago, and I'm not a surfer, and I'm not also the guy that does like this. You know? I just go in the water, and I was in Aruban Bay, and I met this Portuguese guy. He said, "Surf is meditation," and I asked him why. Because if you really want to surf perfectly, you need to be in the moment. You are not thinking about what you are going to do next or what happened in the future. Do you feel that this is a reality once you are in the water? Like if you really want to catch the wave and do it perfectly, see the sad, the good moment, you are in the moment, just that. Nothing else happens, yeah?
Nothing. Everything in the world kind of stops, and it's just you on the wave. And that's so amazing. You don't really think about anything, really. It just comes naturally when you're on the wave. That's why it's so magical.
So how many hours you can stay in the water just surfing? Like 4 hours, like that? Yeah.
Depends. Depends.
What was your record, like staying in the water, not leaving?
I don't know. Maybe
But long time, eh?
long time.
You just forget food, you forget everything then.
Yeah, pretty much.
Would you say that?
Until I'm like super duper sore and I feel like a prune, basically. Then I'll go in.
Like the fingers are all...
Yeah, a prune, you know, all shriveled up, crusty,
time to go now.
dehydrated. Yeah.
And when you arrive out of the water, do you want to eat immediately or you are...
Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Well, but
food and
after a
surf.
few hours on the water, yeah.
Yeah.
So my last question for you, now that we are
We
almost
still have 5 minutes, so it's good.
almost ending our podcast for today. What is the message that you want to bring for young girls like you if they want to pursue their dreams, meaning could be surf, could be whatever they want to do. What is the thing that you think is the most important message to pass to these girls that sometimes don't have all the conditions, gathered to achieve what they want?
I just want to tell everyone here that you guys have the power to do anything you want. You guys are capable, and yeah, you really are capable, and you really have to believe it for yourself. I don't think a lot of people know how much power they have in them. And I just want you to know that you do have the power, and you can achieve anything you want, and just to choose to always never give up. If life pushes you down, you come back. You use that as, fire. And yeah, everything is possible. Choose positivity and always be true to yourself. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Woo! So thank you, Bibi. Thank you,
Dev.
Thank you, Alice and Danny, all friends of Taina and Naz and Marco and Taina.
By the way, I want to give a special thank you for Naz.
Yes.
Because Naz, she was the one that pushed us to do this podcast with Taina. She said, I have an amazing girl, you need to meet. So I want to say thank you so much. She's really a wonderful girl.
She is amazing. We wanted to do the podcast with Naz. No, my story is not important. This girl is like amazing. And it's true, you are. You are amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks guys for having me.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.